Welcome to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Vivian Nunes. The headlines we're tracking this hour. China maxing the number of inbound tourists continues to rise, encouraged by the country's visa-free policy and tax refunds. Sporting spectacles, we check in with China's plans to make sporting events a $1 trillion industry by 2030. And tensions rise. Iran says its imminent agreement with Oman is not enough for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen unless the US meets its demands. Let's take a quick look now at the Chinese mainland markets, where equities closed mixed on Tuesday. The Shanghai Composite lost over 0.8%, while the Shenzhen Component was down by 0.4%. The Nasdaq-style Chinex board gained 0.3%. And here's how a look at how regional markets performed and how Wall Street closed overnight. The People's Bank of China on Monday outlined its reform priorities for the 15th five-year plan period. The central bank proposes a prudent monetary policy system and a comprehensive macro-prudential management framework. It also vows to further strengthen financial support for the real economy and push for high-level opening up in the financial sector. To improve the efficiency of the central bank's services, financial infrastructure will also be upgraded. China's inbound tourism has continued to rise this year, fuelled by expanded visa-free policies and tax refund perks. In the first half of this year, China recorded nearly 23 million foreign visitor arrivals. That was up over 20% year on year, with visa-free entries accounting for 77.7% of the total. The growing interest in China travel also fuelled a boom in China shopping. Customs data from Beijing show a surge in tourist spending, with the city's 2 international airports processing over 131,000 tax refund applications in the first 7 months of this year. That's a staggering 516% jump year on year. And this summer, China Cool has become a global sensation. As much of the Northern Hemisphere swelters under record-breaking heat waves, a growing number of international travellers are flocking to China in search of relief. With its cool, scenic landscapes, efficient and visitor-friendly urban amenities, and increasingly hassle-free entry policies, China is quickly establishing itself as a premier summer destination for tourists from around the world. British travel vlogger Matt Stambra documented his cool weather getaway in Guilin with a group of foreign friends. Let's take a look.
Severe heat waves sweeping Europe pushed Matt and his friends to look for cooler destinations this summer, and they landed in Guilin. Surrounded by iconic coast peaks, the region delivers gentle mountain breezes, providing a perfect refuge from scorching temperatures back home.
It's actually the easiest time to travel to China right now. The government finally loosened the restrictions, so Brits can actually travel to China relatively easily, and I've just seen like a big explosion of all these amazing places in China online.
On top of easy cross-border travel, China's mountain-rich regions offer naturally mild summer conditions. Another pleasant surprise for many overseas visitors is the consistent access to affordable air conditioning in hotels and public facilities.
I'm sure you've seen the news, the heat waves that are going on in Europe right now. And actually, like a lot of hotels and like Airbnbs and things, they don't offer aircon as standard, or if you do have aircon, you're paying a lot of money for it. So it's massively surprising to actually have aircon in every hotel and for it to be so affordable.
Having settled into Guilin, the group is keen to get out of town and see what the region's famous for. They trade business city streets for winding trails amidst the coast hills.
I really enjoy it. The air's very fresh, it's very clean. I like the city itself. It seems quite livable. I wonder how...
Daytime adventures wrapped up, it's time to seek out local flavors at a bustling night food market. On the menu is Luo Sifen, Guangxi's famous tangy sour rice noodle specialty.
Honestly, this is such a nice delicacy I think we've had here. It's might be my favourite one yet. It looks really nice, though. I'm really excited to try this. Once you're here, it's just so heartwarming, and it's heartwarming to talk to the locals, so easy, and such a fantastic time, especially when it's so hot in Europe right now and you just have another place to escape to. Yeah, 5 stars, been fantastic.
Of course, Guilin is just one shiny example of China's summer core travel offerings. Mountain retreats, lakeside resort towns, and many other spots across the country await international visitors this summer.
Well, for more on this, let me bring in Du Jiayi, a research fellow at Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. Thanks so much for making time to speak to Global Business this afternoon. Now, as we know, China is prioritising tourism across the country for both domestic and international visitors. What kind of progress is it making in sectors such as ecotourism, for example, and where are there shortcomings that still need to be addressed?
Yes, China has been putting a lot into this. The first is definitely the infrastructure. Now high-speed rail and expressways run into areas that used to take 2 days to get to. The second is the institutional side. China has been building a proper framework for this, a national park system, clear rules about which areas are protected and which are open. Then we can see the market gets more sophisticated. Natural education programs for school children, bird watching, which has become surprisingly popular among younger travelers, hiking and trail running, flower seasonal travel, they are all booming. When I think the next stage of growth, it's all about who can benefit. I wish more local young people can stay in their hometowns and build something here. More local farmers, small guest house owners, small workshops can take part in this directly, so the growth can reach the people who live in these places.
Immersive experiences are becoming increasingly popular and they go hand in hand with social media content. How is that being leveraged to attract international visitors and particularly younger ones?
I think social media has quietly become the main channel these days. Once the visa-free entry opened up, a lot of foreign travelers came in and started filming in China. And that content did more than any tourism advertisement could. It was unscripted. It showed ordinary things like taking the metro or ordering food from screen. So the second thing is that places have started designing for the camera. We can see Xi'an Tang Dynasty night streak is essentially built around what you will see through a lens. A pop-up store is laid out as a place to take pictures in, not just a shop. When international young travelers plan their trips, they are not reading brochures or going through agencies. They will watch videos and then they copy them. Which tailor, which noodle shop, which shopping mall to visit. So we can see the two sides feed each other. The experiences generate the content, and the content brings the next group of people looking for the experience.
And you mentioned you would like to see, in the next stage of the tourism progress, you'd like to see more small villages benefiting from this kind of input. What kind of state support is there to help tourist sites and experiences get off the ground and become a sustainable business?
Personally, I would describe it as that the state builds the foundation and sets the standards and let the market build the business. Government handles what the market can't do well, the roads, the rules, the entry policy. Once the road goes in, then guest houses open, then a restaurant, then someone starts running hiking trips. The second thing is the standards, rating system for hotels and homestays, safety rules, clear zoning inside the protected areas that tells you where you can build. The third piece is lowering the barrier for smaller operators. local tourism bureau run training, how to manage bookings, food safety, basic English for handling foreign guests. And then the market does the rest. The interesting thing, the tailoring studios, the night museum programs, the coffee shops in all the villages, the bird watching guides, all came from people who saw the opportunity and moved.
Thank you very much, Du Jiayi, joining us there. Southwest China's Chongqing is famous for its dramatic mountain landscape and vibrant food culture. Now, international travellers are discovering another way to experience the city by taking a motorcycle ride and posing for cinematic video shoots against its iconic urban backdrop. Our reporter Yang Jinghao takes a closer look at the growing trend.
It's a growing craze in Chongqing, southwest China. As night falls, travelers from around the world gather along Nanbing Road, hopping on motorcycles and capturing cinematic moments against the dramatic backdrop of this mountain city.
So we arrived just earlier this morning. This is the first thing we're doing. We haven't eaten, we haven't gone out for a drink. First thing on our list was to do the motorbike trend.
It's my first time in China, so I thought I want to do everything I can, and this looks like a great activity. So yeah, I just did it.
But before the engines roar, there's a quick lesson. The riders show visitors how to pose, where to look, and how to capture the perfect shot with the motorcycle.
Number one, look. Okay, so you look straight. 1, 2.
Open your hands.
I like this one the best, the heart.
I think the heart, and this one, it was very nice.
For these international travelers, language barriers are the least of their worries. What matters is the unique experience they are taking away with them.
I feel exhilarated. It was like, I was scared to do it, but I'm really glad I did. And I'm really excited to see how it turns out.
Oh, it was really nice. It's such an experience. I just seen it on Instagram, and now I think I enjoy it a lot, all the process.
Behind this popular experience is a growing motorcycle culture in Chongqing. The city is home to well-established motorcycle industry. Ji Xiaoyu was among the first local riders to explore motorcycle video shoots. Last year, he began reaching out to international enthusiasts through social media.
We have 3 riders on our team. Since September last year, we've worked with approximately 800 to 1,000 foreign visitors.
It's exciting, it's a lot of fun, and it looks great on camera. But above all, safety is always the top priority.
Every night, traffic police officers remain close by to ensure safety.
During the shoot, we always wait for the traffic lights and make sure there are no vehicles behind us before we set off. The fast-moving effect you see in the videos is created through editing. Our actual speed is only around 20 to 30 kilometers per hour.
I think it was pretty safe. If I had some questions, I could ask them. And I think we used a translator if I had some deeper questions. The staff was amazing, and they made me feel secure all the way.
As Chongqing welcomes more international travelers, local riders like Ji say they will continue improving their services, and they hope more visitors can see the city from a different perspective, one filled with dazzling lights, speed, and excitement. Yang Jinghao, CGTN, Chongqing.
You're watching Global Business. When we return, sporting success. We sit down with the CEO of Salomon, the French outdoor brand taking advantage of China's surging sports industry.
A vast land of 1.4 billion people. The world's second largest economy. Home to stories of the unexpected, the unimaginable, the breathtaking. Stories that touch the soul. Feel the speed, the passion. Enjoy spectacular natural and cultural landscapes. Feel the thrill of cutting-edge innovations. Discovering China. Global Biz. China Travel. We present to China never seen before. 24/7 at your fingertips.
A group of American students from Iowa are participating in a cultural exchange program in China. Over the next few days, they'll travel to several cities, beginning in Beijing, with sports playing a key role in helping them connect with their Chinese peers. CGTN Zhao Zhufang has more.
From exploring the Olympic Education Museum and a wushu training and research base, to playing pickleball, table tennis, and practicing martial arts with Chinese students, the American students experienced a mix of sports and culture during their visit to the Capital University of Physical Education and Sports. The university was one of the main stops of the 2026 U.S. Youth Pickleball People-to-People Exchange China Tour.
I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a couple of new things, and I've been able to share those experiences with the new people that I've been meeting.
Pickleball has grown increasingly popular among young people in both countries and has become an increasingly popular activity in youth exchange programs in recent years. Here on the court, Chinese and American students are building connections through the game.
Honestly, working with him was probably the best part. Just like being with your teammate out there and like trying your best.
We are very happy, and I enjoy to play with him.
Table tennis, a sport with a rich history in China, was another part of the exchange. Before the American students arrived, their Chinese peers had already been preparing to welcome them and introduce them to the game.
I prepared by thinking about some simple ways to communicate with them, practicing more to get a better feel for the game, and figuring out how I could help them get a better understanding of table tennis.
I think it's pretty fun. I did not expect a lot of certainties on how to hold the paddle, where to put your fingers, how to angle the paddle.
From pickleball and table tennis to martial arts, these young people are learning about each other's cultures and passions. Perhaps that's the power of people-to-people exchange. You don't have to come from the same cultural background. Sometimes a smile and a game can be the beginning of a friendship. Cao Chufeng, CGTN, Beijing.
As China unveils its first ever national sports development plan under the 15th five-year plan, targeting a sports industry valued at over 7 trillion yuan, or around $1 trillion by 2030, with outdoor sports, winter sports and event-driven consumption at its core, French outdoor brand Salomon is positioning itself to take advantage of this policy tailwind. In an exclusive interview with my colleague Lincoln Humphreys, Salomon's president and CEO Guillaume Maison says the brand is riding this wave, turning its China retail innovations and mountain sports expertise into a global playbook.
China has been, from the last 5 years, the fastest growing region. What is very unique for China is also more than a business we are doing, is also translating the best expression of the brand and bringing new expertise. This is a direct-to-consumer market, so we had to develop a retail operation, a consumer experience that maybe we didn't have in the past in the rest of the region. Direct-to-consumer connection, the best experience. It was helping us also to develop retail in the core epicenter. We just opened a store in Fifth Avenue in New York, for example. And I think it allows us to express sport style, how much we are bringing our culture and our unique design to a little bit broader consumer, younger consumer, female consumer. And it was really helping us to shape this strategy that we learn in China and we develop in the rest of the world.
Consumption trends can evolve so rapidly here. Things move very, very fast in China. And for your brand, particularly from performance style to the couture, lifestyle oriented as well, and bridging that gap, what shifts in consumer behavior are most reshaping your strategy here in China?
You see that there is a big movement into mountain sport. Mm-hmm. And for example, you have today, this year, you're going to have 800 races, trail running races in China, while 5 years ago it was almost, it was only maybe 10 or 20 races and so on. So suddenly, from the inspiration We are currently building a culture, and the culture is now moving to make people even more active and start to embrace and endorse mountain sport. The winter sport was also a big move in China. The barrier of practicing winter sports, snowboard or ski, is even greater, but running in the mountain, hiking in the mountain is becoming very big in China. And I think that this is exactly what makes us very confident for the market, is from the promise and the inspiration of outdoor. Now we are becoming a performance brand, and we are supporting this movement because, of course, we are sponsoring athletes, races. We are making some academy to educate people, because running in a mountain is more complex and more challenging than running in a city. So the barrier but this is what Salomon knows, and this is where we will bring and structure and help to structure the sport in China.
Domestic Chinese brands have become significantly more competitive in lots of different arenas, including your own, especially in innovation and branding and things like that. How does Salomon differentiate itself in what is becoming a more crowded and sophisticated landscape?
The shift of the consumer now is becoming much more curious, looking for more authenticity, niche brand, new solution solving type of proposition, better quality product. I think Salomon has a lot of asset in this environment and in the inspiration of the consumer, and this is what we will continue to do, is driven by innovation, community-led innovation for the sport, and still bringing some energy and inspiration for the sports style. We have to be 30% locally relevant. The 30% relevance, because this is also having some creativity and relying to the region and give some freedom to the region to have this creativity. And sometimes this creativity is also bringing back to the global inspiration. I think that China is becoming big enough for Salomon that, like other regions, by having this type of local independence, driving creativity, they are also starting to influence our global strategy. I think that the next big place where we'll have a global influence is China for the rest of the consumer.
China has unveiled a new plan to become a global leader in sports, setting ambitious development targets for 2030. The blueprint, which covers the 15th five-year plan period of 2026 to 2030, was issued by the General Administration of Sport of China. Key goals include increasing per capita sports venue area to approximately 4 square metres, raising the share of residents who exercise regularly to about 40%, and improving the proportion of the population with a good level of physical fitness to 31.1%. The plan also aims to keep China among the world's top nations in terms of world championship titles, while expanding the total value of the sports industry to over $1.03 trillion US. Official data released in 2025 show that retail sales of sporting goods and recreational products by units above designated size grew 15.7% year on year, highlighting strong consumer demand for sports equipment and fitness-related products. Well, for more on the development of the sports sector as a new economic driver in China, I'd like to bring in Chen Dian, a founder of the consultants EcoSports. Thanks so much for speaking to us today. Now, sporting events are seen as a key driver for urban renewal and growth here in China. Which sports are doing that most effectively, would you say?
Recently in China, I can say that local amateur sports leagues such as Suchao, Jiangsu City football leagues are becoming some of the most, effective sports events for driving urban renewal and economic growth. Unlike the international manga events, as we know, these competitions are closely connected to the local community and then encourage, local residents to participate, to enjoy, to watch, and then travel also between, cities and support their hometowns. Teams. So I think that's this kind of amateur sports league has attracted large attendance, and also the online social media buzz, and also the boosting spending on restaurant, accommodation, hotels, transportations, and tourism as well. So I think it's a city versus city format strengthens the local identity and create a sense of belongings of this kind of residents. So, and most importantly, these grassroots leagues are using existing stadiums, facility, infrastructure, and making them, cheaper and then more easier access to the local residents. So therefore, local and mentor leagues can generate broad economic and social benefits while promoting cities' branding, community engagement, and regional tourism, and making them a particularly effective model for the urban growth in China.
And how does that growth you mentioned reflect China's goals that were set out in the 15th five-year plan?
Yeah, the fifth five-year plan, emphasize, spending domestic demand and increasing the contribution to consumption, to the economic growth, particularly through, service-based consumption. It's the most important things. Sports events support this kind of encouraging spending on the tourism, as I mentioned, and restaurant accommodation as well. So they are the third industry business. So they also feed China's goal of a high quality development. It's just not like you consume like a pair of sports shoes or just buy some kind of a sportive goods. It's to manage on large plan and also the cities are encouraged to improve existing public spaces and community facilities. It's very long term and sustainable consuming, which means it's high quality consumption. And also, sports, grassroots sports events support the goal of building a, strong sports nation, as we mentioned before. And then China's sports plan, promotes mass participation while, aiming to, strengthen the foundation of sports. And not just sports, it's about the physical exercise and the physical education. So it's, I think it's a broader conception about sports for the whole Chinese citizens. So I think that this is the most important thing.
And we talk a lot about the growth in this area. Where do you see there are still opportunities for the sports sector? Are there other sports which haven't yet transitioned into successful spectator events? Can they take some lessons from the Football League, like you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's still so many. It's a long way to go. There's still a major opportunities to, I can say that badminton, volleyball, and also the pickleball into the stronger spectacular events in China. So many already have a larger participation already. We have a good, fan basement. But, this kind of leagues, they do not have a very, strong identity, and also it's not a capability in terms of the commercialization. So I think that they can learn from the football leagues and then the basketball league by creating city-based team, and then regular seasons, and then the local rivalries culture that give fans a more emotional reason to follow the competitions.
Lots to watch out for then. Thank you very much, Chen Dian joining us there, a founder of EcoSports Consultancy.
No problem, my pleasure.
Coming up on Global Business. Tensions rise. Iran says its imminent agreement with Oman is not enough for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen unless the US meets its demands.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global Business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
US President Donald Trump has demanded Iran pay compensation for the people he says it has killed in attacks and protests.
Low-keying it with them, that you're semi-negotiating. What exactly does that mean?
Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. Whether you go SS Cole or whether you go all of the people that were so badly hurt, so badly wounded or killed, many thousands of people. So now what is it? So if there's damages to be paid, I think Iran should pay those damages.
President Trump's proposal is in response to Tehran's demands for compensation and an end to US sanctions. He says Washington is opting for economic pressure rather than military strikes to push Iran toward a deal. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
This is really a shift in strategy from the White House. Up until now, it's been all about that military pressure, carrying out strikes on Iran. Now it's about economic pressure. Of course, there's been those US sanctions being placed on Iran. Those have been in place for years and years. And on top of that, over recent months, we've had the US naval blockade on Iranian ports. All of that is choking off potential revenue streams, the ability for Iran to get money. And really, the Trump administration is saying it is happy to wait, to let all of that take its effects on the Iranian economy at a time that the Trump administration is saying that it is really, really struggling. So the US president not deciding to go back to military action, but rather trying to put that economic pressure onto Iran. He's also said that at this stage, the US is only semi-negotiating with the Iranians, saying that overall the Trump administration's approach now is to low-key it. We're still waiting for that potential deal between Iran and Oman. That would have a partial effect on the Strait of Hormuz. It wouldn't be the fully reopened deal that the US is looking for. It's really about the Iranians controlling which ships pass through the strait, and they are asking for preconditions or concessions from the US. They want that naval blockade to end, they want sanctions relief to be given, and they want those frozen Iranian funds to be unfrozen. Of course, those are all things that the Trump administration will not agree to, because those would give them the economic lifeline that the US president wants to avoid.
As negotiations over a peace deal between the US and Iran stall, hopes for reopening the Strait of Hormuz are fading, pushing oil prices back onto a growth trajectory. Sina Azodi, Assistant Professor of Middle East Politics at George Washington University, believes the Strait of Hormuz is a key issue in the negotiations.
Without having an agreement, explicit arrangement for the passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, we cannot have a permanent solution to the war. If you may recall, the reason that the Iranians started attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz after the Memorandum of Understanding was that the language of MOU was quite vague, that paragraph 5 that addressed the issue of Strait of Hormuz. And Iranians believe that the American side is trying to motivate the ships to sail through the southern shipping lane, which is through the Omani waters. This is why they didn't want to lose their strategic asset, and they started attacking ships. So I guess I think it is not a peace deal in itself, but it is an instrumental part of the permanent end to hostilities.
And if Tehran demands compensation for war damages, right, is that a negotiating position or just a non-starter?
Well, for the Iranian side, of course, it's a non-starter, but how those reparations will be implemented is the question. Some people have suggested that the investment fund, that $300 billion investment fund, was in a way reparations to Iran. But I don't believe that the United States would explicitly agree to pay Iranians reparations.
To Japan now, where corporate bankruptcies have exceeded 1,000 in July for the second straight month, as labour shortages and rising prices continue to squeeze smaller businesses. Tokyo Shoko Research reports that the number is up nearly 7% from last year, with total liabilities surging more than 41% to about $1.5 billion. Small companies accounted for nearly 80% of the total number. Bankruptcies attributed to labour shortages hit a record 63 cases, including 36 caused by rising personnel costs, while those tied to rising prices totalled 93 cases. It was the most since 2022. And the Japanese yen has surrendered nearly half the gains from last month's joint US-Japan intervention as persistent market pressure erodes the currency's recovery. The yen hovered around 159 per dollar Tuesday, while off the post-intervention three-month peak of 155.2. That operation, triggered when the yen slumped to a 40-year low near 164, has since lost much of its bite. With Japanese markets closed for a holiday, thinner liquidity raises the risk of another round of official action. Speculators have paired bearish yen bets, though analysts expect short positions to quickly rebuild. Investors now await US inflation data due this week for clues on the Federal Reserve's next move. Let's take a look at some other business headlines that we're tracking this hour. Investor morale in the Eurozone has returned to positive territory in August, rising for a fourth consecutive month. The rise is helped by a sharp improvement in economic conditions and continued confidence in the recovery. The Sentex index for the Eurozone rose to 0.9 points in August from minus 3.1 in July, compared with a Reuters poll forecast of minus 0.5. Singapore has once again raised its growth forecast for this year, expecting it to be between 4.5 to 5.5%, up from the earlier projection of 2 to 4% issued in February. It comes as the artificial intelligence boom boosts trade and manufacturing, offsetting drag from ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. And Nvidia has signed memorandums of understanding with 6 Wall Street asset managers, including Apollo Global Management and Blackstone, to establish financing platforms. The effort aims to mobilise more than $500 billion to build AI infrastructure, including frontier AI labs and data centres. To Germany now, where the Rhine River is facing record low water levels, disrupting one of Europe's busiest inland shipping routes. That's forcing up prices, as Natalie Carney reports from the German town of Kaub.
The Kaub water gauge is one of the Rhine River's most closely watched points. At its shallowest, low water levels here force vessels to reduce their loads to avoid running aground, pushing freight onto roads and rail and driving up costs.
Nearly everything moving inland from the port of Rotterdam travels through this stretch of the River Rhine, meaning that just a few centimeters of water loss can ripple through supply chains serving factories across Europe.
The town's mayor says he's never seen the river this low.
Kaub ist quasi ein Richtwert.
The Kaub gauge serves as a benchmark for ships travelling from the lower Rhine to places like BASF. These companies, refineries and the like, receive many of their raw materials by ship, so they load their vessels based on the Kaub gauge reading. The less cargo they can carry, the more expensive everything becomes. Ultimately, everything gets pricier.
Industries including steel, chemicals, energy and manufacturing are among the hardest hit.
Der mittlere Wasserstand.
At this time of year, water levels usually sit well above 2 meters, but weeks of drought and persistent heat have reduced it to historic lows of 25 centimeters.
Shipping traffic has dropped significantly due to these low water levels. First, the river cruise ships suspended operations, followed by the larger cargo vessels. Now, only relatively small cargo ships are operating, and transport volumes are very low. The flow of goods has to adapt. And in worst-case scenario, production does too.
And it has been, but at far smaller volumes, more slowly, and at much higher prices. Freight costs on this stretch of the Rhine have more than doubled since last June, with some operators imposing low-water surcharges of more than $1,000 per container.
Also bei normalem Wasserstand?
Under normal water levels, a Rhine barge can carry around 500 containers. Currently, that capacity is down to just 20%, meaning only 100 containers. That leaves 400 containers sitting idle somewhere, while the 100 that can be transported become much more expensive to ship.
Meanwhile, trucks, trains and additional barges cannot fully make up for the lost river freight capacity. There are plans to deepen the Middle Rhine by an additional 20 centimeters, but the project isn't expected to be completed until 2033. Unlike previous major low-water events, these conditions have arrived in the middle of summer, raising fears that distribution could continue for weeks or even months. Natalie Carney, CGTN, in Kaub.
Well, staying with the heatwave in Europe, wildfires that have devastated parts of southwest France have also hit the economy. At the peak of the crisis, authorities warned tourists to stay away, but now business owners are hoping they'll return. Our Sarah Coates has more from Bordeaux.
Across the region, forests have been reduced to ash, homes destroyed, and thousands of people forced to flee. But even away from the flames, the damage is still being felt. For many shops, hotels and restaurants around Bordeaux and the Atlantic coast, summer is when much of the year's money is made. And this season, many tourists have stayed away.
Yeah, especially in near the Arcachon Bay and all these places, it's pretty terrible because most of the commerces, everything, the shops, they do most of their figures, they do it during the summer. And if you remove that, well, how long can they last?
Now, despite the immediate danger easing, many visitors haven't returned.
The warnings from authorities in Gironde have made tourists desert the region, and unfortunately, economically, it is very complicated for hotels and restaurants, and by extension, obviously, the chateau, which is receiving far few people for visits and tourism.
But for the region's wine growers, that's only part of the problem. Here in Bordeaux's vineyards, weeks of heat and drought is having an impact on the grapes and could leave wine growers with a very different harvest to other years. With the searing heat speeding up the ripening process and changing the wine's balance.
The wines can become a little more alcoholic and a little less acidic. That was something we once tried to achieve in Bordeaux because the grapes sometimes lacked maturity. But today it can be too much, so we have to work to maintain the balance of Bordeaux wines. That may mean harvesting a little earlier or changing the way we make the wine. We have to adapt.
The grapes are smaller too, meaning less wine, even if the quality is still there. And while the fire emergency is easing, the heat and drought that fuel it are not.
There won't be many places where we can say that we're climate secure. Global warming is global. Right now it is in the southwest, but it will also be in the southeast of France, and there will be other problems, and it won't just be in France.
For Bordeaux, that means protecting the wine industry at the heart of this region and the economy built around it. Sarah Coates, CGTN, Bordeaux.
And that wraps up this edition of Global Business. I'm Vivian Nunes in Beijing. Thanks for your company.